Hello, everyone, and welcome to UBS Trending. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Anthony Pastori. Investors have many different goals: saving for a first home, funding a child's education, or having enough money for a comfortable retirement. In addition, philanthropy can be an important part of many investors' wealth strategies. And today we're going to take a look at how UBS Wealthway and how it can then help when it comes to philanthropy. So joining me now are Ainsley Carbone and Julie Binder, my colleagues here from UBS. Good to see both of you.
Great to see you, Anthony.
Nice to see
You too. So Ainsley, I want to start with you because I mentioned Wealthway, and you and I have talked about Wealthway on many programs, but for a viewer who may be tuning in for the first time, before we get into the philanthropy side of the story, just give us an overview of what UBS Wealthway is.
So UBS Wealthway is our approach to managing wealth. And we do it because we want to help people understand their wealth and make financial decisions within the context of their financial goals. And we do that by organizing wealth across 3 key strategies that are segmented by time horizon and specific objectives. So first is the liquidity strategy. That's the resources and assets that we have for our near-term goals. We have the longevity strategy, which is the assets and resources that we have for our lifetime spending. And then there's the legacy strategy, which is essentially the wealth and resources that are in excess of what we need for our lifetime. And so one of the key advantages of this approach is that it makes the connection between risk and time horizon. So for instance, let's say we have cash. Cash is not a great asset for long-term needs because it typically loses purchasing power over time, but in the short term, it's the safest asset. If we look at stocks, those are incredibly risky in the near term, but in the long term, they have very attractive long-term growth potential that helps us outpace inflation. So since cash that we need in the near term it doesn't have the patience to wait out market volatility, we recommend having cash and conservative investments in the liquidity strategy. And then when it comes to the longevity strategy or legacy, that's where the assets are that can wait out that near-term market volatility. So at its core, the liquidity, longevity, legacy framework is really a blueprint to help families understand where their wealth is and why. And by organizing assets and your investments by specific objectives and time horizons, we can make sure that the wealth that you need is there whenever you need it.
Right. Thank you, Ainsley. I'm glad we level set that portion of it. So Julie, let me ask you, when you work with a lot of our advisors, and of course you work with their clients as well, so how are our advisors at UBS helping their clients to think about what goes into one of those 3 strategies that Ainsley was just talking about, whether it's liquidity, whether it's longevity, or the legacy strategy?
It's a great question. One of the things that a lot of our really great advisors do is start with a conversation. What do you want your wealth to do for you? What do you want it to do for your children? What do you want to make sure it doesn't do to your children? And what do you want it to do for the world? And when you think about that, and when you've done your numbers on liquidity, longevity, and legacy, you can look at how to put those legacy assets to work now. If you know that you have certain things that are left over, for example, you might start gifting to philanthropic things that you're passionate about. You might start making gifts to children, different pieces of that nature. So as you're thinking about my legacy, your legacy is not just a pile of money, right? It's how people remember you, how people think about you. It's a reflection of the life you've lived in your business. It's a reflection of the gifts that you've made. And when you're thinking about the effect of your wealth on the world, that's where it comes into the philanthropy bucket and the legacy strategy. It may be that your values are aligned around those legacy assets, and it may be that you start organizing in things like a donor-advised fund or a private foundation to begin making strategic gifts with some of those legacy assets.
Right, and I love the fact that the framework, as we were talking about here, it doesn't have a client go into sitting with their advisor or doing a Zoom with them, and they're saying, so what mutual funds are you interested in? The client says, I have no idea. Instead, it's asking them, we just showed those 5 questions, arriving at what's really important to you. What do you want your money to do for you, for your family? What's the legacy you want to leave behind? What kind of causes do you and your family really believe in? It's part of your internal framework. It's such a really interesting and important way to approach a conversation with your FA, with your advisor, versus just talking about the markets or what the latest rates of the treasury yields are, when certain people have no idea what that means. They just know what they want their money to do for them. So there we go. And then Ainsley, building on what Julie just talked about also, we talk about this 3L framework, the liquidity, longevity, legacy strategies from UBS Wealthway. How does it help families when it comes to the philanthropy side, which really sits in the legacy bucket for the most part, but it can be part of the other strategies as well?
Exactly. So when it comes to figuring out how much you're going to give away, first of all, you need to figure out if you have enough to support the lifestyle that you want to live during your lifetime.
Right.
So when it comes to the liquidity, longevity, legacy framework, part of the process of segmenting your wealth is going through and thinking about, what is it that I need in the near term? What is it that I need during my lifetime in my retirement years? And so once you have a number on what that's going to cost, it's not an easy process, but going through that process of addressing those questions and kind of extracting some of those objectives, you're able to eventually put a number on that. So once you've figured out how much you need in the liquidity strategy and the longevity strategies for today and your lifetime, then you're able to identify the wealth that you have in excess of your lifetime spending. So that excess or that surplus wealth is essentially what you'll be able to afford to give away in that legacy strategy. But I will say, if I'm sitting down and I'm getting ready for retirement and I'm looking at how much I need during my lifetime and I'm looking at my total wealth, if I put that certain amount that I need in the liquidity and longevity strategies, and then I see, okay, this is the excess wealth I have in legacy, I know I could put it there, but there's always that mental hurdle that we have to come over.
Of course, we all have that.
Yeah, when it comes to putting that wealth towards someone else.
That's
so.
Right.
I will just say that when it comes to you, if you are someone who's more interested in having a little bit more of a buffer in their longevity strategy, that's okay, but it's a conversation that you need to have with your financial advisor, who's going to be able to sit down with you and illustrate those trade-offs, and from there you'll be able to make the decision as to how much you feel comfortable putting into that legacy strategy. But the bottom line is that once you're able to identify how much is needed in that liquidity and longevity strategy, then you just have that confidence that you need to be able to set that wealth aside for someone else.
And it's about establishing a really clear picture of what you do need and what you could then put into that legacy strategy. That's the beauty of having the conversation with the advisor who uses the Wealthway framework in those discussions, right? So Julie, then, okay, so now we've established what the, Mr. or Ms. investor says, okay, here's what I've got for today, for tomorrow, and here's what I feel like I want to leave in my legacy strategy. Now, how does that client or investor think about legacy? What goes into that thinking?
I think it's so interesting because we talk about legacy and we talk about philanthropy, but I think many of our clients actually budget their charitable giving on an annual basis. So they're putting those numbers in their annual budget. So they might have it in their liquidity strategy that they just aren't thinking about. And so they should be really looking at, what are the gifts that I'm making every year? What are the organizations that I support? What are the things that I'm most passionate about and the problems I want to solve? And then when they're thinking about those, they should be reflecting on the gifts they're already making and having a conversation with their advisor about whether or not there's a way to do that in a more advantageous way. So that could be gifting highly appreciated securities, for example, instead of writing a check. It could be setting aside a donor-advised fund at the end of the year for lumping together gifting for the future. So any number of these things could be a piece of that legacy strategy and that legacy bucket. And again, it's not just what you leave when you're gone. There's something really fulfilling about being able to gift while you're here, so that you can see the effect of that gift on the lives that you're making the gift for.
Right. And it's also, if you're someone who has children or younger folks around, you're able to do today what you want to pass down to them. If it's a lot of families really believe in the idea of philanthropy and giving when you can, and giving it to charities or to organizations that you as a family believe in. Or maybe your daughter at the table has another charity that she may want to give to, but she's learning that from her parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, the adults in her life. So as you said, it's not about leaving it when you're gone off of the earth. Do it now while you can actually see it being put to use and teaching it to the younger generations. That's a really powerful way to think about it.
Anthony, I feel like we've been spending a lot of time together because that's exactly what I tell clients.
We've talked a lot about this, you and I.
We have talked a lot about this. But if you think about it, especially our very young children, they're not understanding our giving, right? They're not seeing us make those gifts on a regular basis. They just see the consumerism that happens. Right. They see the purchases we make, they see the cars that we drive, the houses that we live in, and they see everything at the checkout aisle when we do take them to the store. Can I have this lollipop? Can I have this thing? All the time. Or the toy catalogs that come in the mail in force this time of year. And so being deliberate around our money messages and how we talk about our wealth and the decisions that we're making with our children, especially as it relates to our giving, because that's not as visible to them on a regular basis. So any way we can get them involved, whether it's giving them our Give, Save, Spend jars. We have a really neat coloring book for kids that has these stickers that UBS advisors can give to their clients, or getting them involved, whether you're matching volunteer hours that your older children are doing, or you are getting them involved in taking them shopping for an angel tree child and granting some wishes, or even just taking them to the grocery store with the give money from their give jar and encouraging them to pick out some foods that they'd really want for children whose families have to shop at the local food bank. Those are great ways to start living our values and involving our children in those legacy buckets. And as our children are older, whether they are in their 20s, and if we do have an organized family giving vehicle, that could be, again, matching our children's donations, involving grandchildren in a community project together. So all the cousins working together to identify something they want grandma and grandpa to give to. It's a really meaningful way to think about your legacy.
It is, and then it becomes tradition for a family that gets passed down and down and down, and then it just grows and it becomes even more powerful as these other organizations and charities are benefiting, and these families who can't afford what you can, whatever it is that you can afford, are benefiting from that too. So thank you. That was great, Julie. And especially at this time of year, a lot of people are thinking about how they can be philanthropic during the holidays. So I'm really glad we sat down today and discussed this. Julie Binder and Ainsley Carbone. Good to see both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony.
Great. And we've got a lot of information on Wealthway. You can visit the website at ubs.com/Wealthway. Plus, as Julie mentioned, there are plenty of ways to learn how to have these conversations about legacy, about philanthropy with your family. So make sure to reach out to your financial advisor at UBS to get more information on the ways to have those kinds of meetings, and maybe they can even do that with you. So make sure to keep them involved. Additionally, don't forget to check us out on social media, all the platforms, plus all of our past UBS Trending episodes are available on demand. Until next time, I'm Anthony Pastore. We hope you have a great day, everybody, and remember to keep your eyes on what's trending. We'll see you soon.